So tell me where you're from. We'll get back to me in a minute.
Yeah, I live in Minnesota, outside
Okay.
of the Twin Cities, south of Minneapolis, St. Paul, in a suburb. But I grew up in Arizona, so quite a climate change. I've been in Minnesota for 21 years, and every winter I'm looking forward to how do I get back? How do I get back to Arizona? So I have extended family that live there, and yet I really have learned to enjoy that their seasons, but I just don't care so much for the winter in Minnesota. But yeah, I currently live in Minnesota.
Yeah, it's pretty extensive winter for sure.
I
We
I
have,
woke up this morning 7 below 0, so that's not what I'm looking for when I wake up.
goodness, no, it is 38 degrees here, and that is plenty cold enough. We had some friends who just moved to Minnesota. The mom's family is from there. That's where she grew up.
Hmm.
And so they just out of nowhere within 2 months went from living here and with not really any much plans on going anywhere else to 2 months later they were in Minnesota living looking for a house to be with her family. And they've been sending me pictures and videos of all the snow. And I just, they say the snow makes that type of climate makes for some really tough individuals, and I can imagine that it does.
Or crazy, I don't know. But yeah, I guess we learn how to tough it out. That's for sure. 38 degrees. So where are you?
I'm in Alabama.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I are you near Birmingham or where? What part of Alabama?
North Central, so right outside of Huntsville.
Okay.
It's a borderline tropical for most of the year. We get very little snow, very little winter weather even. So it if any snow sticks at all, the entire state shuts down.
Okay.
Schools are out,
Yeah.
roads are impassable.
That's one thing they do very well in Minnesota is they know how to clear the roads. That's for sure, and
Yeah, we
make
don't.
it possible to get out and safely get out and move about. Although, we do have times where more so because of the cold than the snow that the schools are closed. If it's too cold, the kids can't stand at the bus stop for so long, and then
Mhm.
the superintendents will close school. So that kind of thing.
Well, good. I know a lot of schools are moving to having at-home options, so it'll turn it into an
Hmm.
e-learning day.
Yeah, and we have that here too. Not ideal, but it's better than just no school, I guess.
Do you have children?
Grown children. Yep.
Okay.
Hmm.
Do you raise them in Minnesota or Arizona?
They grew up a little in both, actually. They grew
Okay.
up some of their years were in Arizona and some in Minnesota. But yeah, my son has relocated to Nashville and loves the climate and the people there, and my daughter and her family live in St. Paul, so they're still here in Minnesota.
Okay, cool. It's good to have them a little close by.
Absolutely.
So I wanted to know about this near-death experience you had at 28.
Yeah, what do you want to know?
All of it. I want to know from start to finish. What happened? What you remember? Did you experience anything? Like, I know you, of course, experienced things. It was obviously anything like that was life-changing.
Yeah,
But, near-death experiences are a talking point for a lot of
absolutely.
demographics.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Savannah, what happened? The date was actually November 23rd, 1999 is a day that I say should have been on my tombstone. We lived in Arizona at the time. I was driving to work that morning. It was a Tuesday, 2 days before Thanksgiving, and was taking our small family dog to the groomers. And while I was in the groomers, quite a bit longer than I had expected, I guess other people were wanting their pets taken care of before Thanksgiving. I started to have shortness of breath, and I'd grown up with some allergies and asthma-like symptoms, and so I started to have an asthma attack. And I went out to my car after I dropped off the dog and grabbed my rescue inhaler. Was not getting any relief. Um, not sure what to do. Began to panic And so I drove home. It was only maybe a mile. And as I opened my garage door to go into my home now, why would I go to my home? I didn't think go to the hospital, go to a clinic, go to a urgent care. Didn't even come into my mind. Um, but I drove home because I knew I had a nebulizer treatment that I could give myself this treatment, and hopefully that would take care of my situation. So I drove home, and as my garage door went up, I got out of my car to go into the house to get this nebulizer machine, and with the little air that I had left, I just cried out a desperate prayer out loud. I was starting to get dizzy. I was starting to get lightheaded, and I just called out, "Jesus, help me, Jesus!" And it's just what came to my mind at that moment was I needed some uh, divine intervention here. And so I grabbed that medication and began to put it in my nebulizer, and was on my knees there in my family room, and I wasn't getting relief, and now I was really getting lightheaded, and things started to kind of spin in the room, and my daughter was actually on a Thanksgiving break from school. My wife had gone out to run an errand, and my daughter was watching TV, and I called out to her to call 911, and she was quite brave, and she did, and she waited out in our driveway for the paramedics, the fire truck to come, which didn't take that long. They weren't that far away, thankfully. And as the paramedics came in and gave me a mask to put over my nose and mouth, and within just a few moments, I completely blacked out. I remember having my life pass before me. All of these scenes in my life were just kind of going in my mind, in my subconscious. And then I had the thought, I'm going to die, and there's nothing I can do about it. And again, I was unconscious, so this was in my subconscious.
Oh.
I don't have any recollection of being in the ambulance, going to the ER. I don't remember being in the ER. I can tell you, Savannah, that from the time the paramedics came to when I woke up in ICU, in intensive care unit, it had been 9 hours, or just over 9 hours had gone by. Um, Part of that time, once they got me to the ER, they were trying to put a tube, and that was unsuccessful. And I was pulling the tubes out and become combative. Apparently, it's what I've been told. Um, but at that point, there in the ER, I coded. I died. They lost me for a moment. I'm so grateful for that medical team. They continued to work on me, and I was resuscitated. And then they were able to intubate me and put me into 100%, you know, medical induced coma, and transfer me then from ER up to the ICU unit. So when I woke up out of that um, medical induced state, I was intubated in the intensive care, and my wife was standing next to my bed, and I was trying to speak, but my hands were strapped to the sides of the bed because I had become combative before, and it was just precautionary that they do that. And so they unstrapped my hands, gave me a clipboard, and the first thing I wrote down was what I experienced. And so I write about this whole experience in my book, Priority Living: 7 Pillars to Make Your Life Count. But in my book, I encourage our friend listening to pick up a copy of that book, because in the book I share the full story of what I experienced when I coded. And I'll throw a teaser out here right now without getting into all of it. My spirit left my body when I had that thought, I'm going to die, and there's nothing I can do about it. And I was in the afterlife, and I had experienced an incredible encounter in what we would call heaven. And it was absolutely as real as you and I sitting here talking. And I have fully embraced the statement, or the quote, that we are not human beings having a spiritual experience, but we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And it was an incredible encounter that I had for the few moments while the medical team in the natural was working to resuscitate me. And I guess what I would say to that is that um, this life is not the end. Uh, it, Afterlife is real. I experienced it, and it's closer than we think. It's within a moment. It's within the blink of an eye from our last breath to our experience of eternity. And and so that was my encounter there. So I wake up, and the first thing I write on that clipboard was these words, which is interesting that this was my prayer when I was going through my garage. But I wrote down on that clip on that paper on that clipboard, I wrote, I saw Jesus. And I had tears streaming down my face. And my wife was just, amazed. She knew that I had coded and they had revived me. Um, and was, obviously quite concerned as were other family members and friends. But the first thing I couldn't wait to share was what I had encountered at that moment when I had coded. And later that night, which is an incredible thing, later that night, that evening, they was able to remove the tube, and I was able to speak. And I need to go back to what I wrote on the clipboard. I wrote on the clipboard, I saw Jesus, and then I wrote, "Take this tube out of my mouth. I'm fine. I want to go home." And so that night when they did take the tube out, I sat up in that intensive care unit and I was drinking Starbucks because I was like so grateful to be alive. I was so grateful that I was being given a second chance. And I've been grateful for that every single day. And there has not been a day since November 23rd, 1999, that in some way what I encountered that day hasn't come to my mind. I've truly been given a second chance. And so that's really the desire for me at that moment, in the days following that situation was like, how do I make my life count? Like, I've been given a second chance. Oh my gosh, like I shouldn't be here. And I know, Savannah, you don't have to die to be resuscitated to want to make your life count, right? I believe we all want to make our life count. We all want to make a difference. We all want to, do the best we can with the life that we have. And but I've been all the more intentional about it, and never set out to write a book, never set out to create a life framework. But over the years, I just really was intentional about what are the things that I believe if I'm intentional about them, that's the key word for me is being intentional, that I could look back on my life and say I did the best I could with the life I've been given to make my life count. And so over those years, I developed these 7 areas or 7 pillars, and that's what I write about in my book because I feel like after 20 or so years of living it, it's not theory, it's something I've been living, and I wanted to share it with others in case one or more of these pillars could be beneficial for the person who either hears me on a podcast or hears me on a stage or picks up my book. So that's what the 7 pillars are all about, and that's how they came about. So it's the 7 pillars for priority living, and that's the backstory to that.
All right. No, we don't need a grand thing to happen for us to change, but oftentimes that's the only way we actually do. It's kind of like learning the hard way or learning the easy way. Most of us do learn the hard way.
Mm-hmm.
We know that we have time, like we know that we have a finish line. We're
Mm-hmm.
all going to reach it at some point. But we tend to think it's in the distant future and nothing to worry about at the moment. Like, I think most people push it out of their minds entirely and try not to think about it. And then when they do think about it, because they don't face it and they try to avoid it, it becomes very overwhelming to even acknowledge the existence of. So we just kind of go around life with our blinders on, living day to day and wasting our time scrolling on the couch
Mm-hmm.
instead of doing what we want to do. We think that that's what we want to do in the moment,
Mm-hmm.
but in the long run, it's not. We have all of these dreams and aspirations, and even that in itself, that statement, dreams and aspirations, tends to sound grand. And it doesn't technically have to, like it can be your dream to just speak another language. It can be your dream to read 5 books in a month. I don't know. It can be really simple. It can, just to be there for your kids, your grandparents, to be the best parent that you possibly can for this reason or that. And yet, it's the small, tiny, minute by minute decisions, choices that we make on a daily basis that builds that and gets us closer to that. And I imagine you feel a little bit better about dying now than you probably did before?
Oh, absolutely. Now, I'm a person of faith. I was a person of faith before this happened, but I will tell you that, fear would creep in when you think about death. I mean, matter of fact, nobody wants, like you're saying there, nobody wants to talk about death. You want to be a real spice up a party, you go into a Christmas party or some kind of party with people and say, "Hey, I was thinking for a few moments, let's talk about death." You're going to get people walking away because nobody wants to talk about it. Matter of fact, even Warren Buffett has a great quote. I'd like to know the location for where I'll die so that I never go to that place. Nobody wants to think about that as you're saying, but I think for me, it really has. And I like to give people hope. I love to give people hope because once you've experienced something, then you can share with others your experience. And hopefully that will give them a sense of peace that, okay, I can be peaceful. An example for me was skydiving. I don't know, Savannah, if you've ever gone skydiving yet. I'm going to add
Nope.
yet.
Nope, 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 nope. That is not for me.
Yeah. Well, yet. Let's just put yet on there.
Nope.
Um, but so I had, fear of heights, fear of falling. Actually, I've come to believe that most phobias really, this is just my theory, most phobias end up being the fear of death. So
Sure,
if
yeah.
you've got if you've got arachnophobia, that's spiders, well, you're not really afraid of a spider, you're afraid the spider is going to bite you and you're going to die.
Yep.
Or the fear of heights, you feel like you're going to fall and you're going to die. Whatever the fear is, fear of snakes or all these popular phobias I guess out there. But so I ended up a couple of years ago, quick story. My mom was turning 80 years old. And a few months before her birthday, she said, I've always thought about possibly going skydiving on my 80th birthday. I'm telling my wife is well, not my wife, my mom, my wife too, but my mom is incredible. My mom is incredible. So on her 80th birthday, I said, Mom, I think that'd be incredible. I think you should go skydiving. And then she said, Will you go with me? Oh boy. So I did 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, out in Buckeye, Arizona. I went skydiving with my niece and her friend and my mom. We went skydiving. And you know what? After doing it, I can't wait to do it again. I know there's risk involved. It is the most incredible experience, and it goes so fast. Like you free fall 7,000 feet in a matter of seconds, which it doesn't even feel like you're falling. The wind is coming at you so fast. It feels like the wind is actually pushing you up. And then they pull the chute, your tandem. So you got somebody there that's experienced, of course. And they pull the chute, and then the parachute opens, and it is so quiet and so blissful. It's just, it's the most incredible thing. And then you just glide all the way down, and you got the beautiful views. It's like, oh my gosh, as soon as you hit the ground, you just like, that was amazing. I can't wait to go again. Now, moments before that, I had this like, oh my gosh, is this the day I'm really gonna die? But there's so many things in life that because it's unknown or because it's an unknown experience, we can have a fear about it. And rightly so with death. I mean, come on, it's rare that those of us that have had a near death experience where we've actually not just near death experience, but we actually died and were resuscitated. So
Hmm.
I know that's very uncommon, not very common, but I like to give people hope because eternity is real and eternity is closer than we think. It's just like a veil between this life on earth and eternity. And I'm a person of faith. I believe. In the Bible. I believe in Jesus Christ as my Savior. And I would say that, according to the scriptures, not to be any preachy here or anything, but just to say, according to the scriptures, there is a time for all of us to die, but there is also um, what happens after we die really is determined not by the good things we do. We can't do enough good things to earn our way. It's just really all about our belief. And my experience was heaven. I do believe, according to the Bible, that there's another existence that's torment, and I'm grateful that I didn't experience that. And I want everybody to have the hope of eternity, that we don't need to be afraid of it. We just get our security in where our destination is when we die, when we breathe our last, to be eternity with God in heaven. So yeah. So I love what you brought up there about the fear thing, because and I have a lot of I have had other fears prior to that experience that they don't really bother me as fears anymore, and I think that's because I'm not afraid to die.
Sure. What kind of things do you struggle with these days? Because we're human, so it
Yeah.
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much work we do. We're always going to have something that we're struggling with. There's always another level.
Yeah, there is absolutely. Well, for me, I'm very futuristic. I'm always thinking about the future. So at times I struggle with just be in the moment, Bill. Just, hey, I'm
Yeah.
having this great conversation with Savannah right now. Let's just be here, not be thinking about, what's going to happen next week or in 5 days or 2 years. I want to stay focused in the moment and not have a struggle of that. I also, there's always more opportunities to do in a day or, maybe in a lifetime that we can actually do. So I struggle constantly with having to come back to what are my priorities
Hmm.
and are my living my priorities. And so I've created a framework for that, of course, that I can be intentional. But there's things like that I struggle with today.
Yeah, everything really comes back to intentional awareness. So trying to be as aware as you can in every moment instead of just on autopilot and going through the motions because that's what you're used to doing. And
Hmm.
trying to be patient. Yeah, living in the moment with the patience. That's where I struggle a lot too. I we have a society of productivity. Your worth is
Yes.
defined in your productivity. So it's really hard for people, myself included, to slow down and just enjoy the moment. The branch of yoga I went into and specialized in is restorative yin instead of the yang because
Hmm.
that's what I feel like we need the most, and you become that which you need the most, you've researched that which you need the most, and I needed to
Hmm.
learn how to chill out and manage my anxiety, manage my stress levels, learn how to slow down. And even though I'm always talking about being present in the moment and noticing your body and breathing and relaxing the shoulders, like it, I'm preaching it constantly out loud to myself.
Yeah,
And I'm just reminding everybody else as I go. But I know to remind people because I myself need reminding.
sure. Yeah, the hardest person to lead is always ourselves, right? It's
Sure.
it's 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 easy to help other people. I find that as a leadership coach, it's easy to lead other people or guide them.
Do
It's
as I
another
say, not as
thing.
I do.
Yeah, so I got to be intentional of what I'm doing. Most people accept their lives, they don't lead their life. Like you
Mm.
said, they're on autopilot. And we have to be, I love that we keep saying the word intentional, because that's really what it a lot comes down to, is what are we being intentional about, and not just accepting whatever comes day by day, but we're actually being proactive, intentional, and wanting to live our priorities, whatever our priorities are. And that takes intentionality to do it.
Mm-hmm. I so was it a asthma attack?
Yeah. an asthma attack that ultimately led to respiratory failures, how it was diagnosed or how it was, told of me by the medical team. And I've looked it up at different times. I think, you know, before this happened, I didn't know that you could die from an asthma attack, but, a little over 4,000 people a year do die from asthma attacks,
Hmm.
which is a small percentage if you think about all the people that probably have asthma or asthma-like symptoms. But nonetheless, uh, it is a real thing.
Yeah, it's super scary thing too. Not being able to breathe. That's just,
Yeah.
the things we take for granted, for example.
Mhm.
Uh,
Right.
we all have been stuffy and congested at some point in our life. And when we're dealing with that, we're just, man, I wish I could breathe. Man, I wish I could
Yeah.
breathe. But when we can actually breathe, we forget to be thankful for it. We forget to notice it. We forget to
Right.
appreciate it. I've always had allergies. And
Mhm.
this past, no, spring before last, I started waking up in the middle of the night wheezing, and
Oh boy.
I ended up having to get an inhaler. It's really scary,
Yeah.
for sure. Do you
Absolutely.
still,
So
I
you've
imagine you.
experienced that. Yeah.
Yeah. How long were you consciously intubated? That's also a nightmare.
hmm I wasn't awake. I wasn't conscious very long, actually, probably
Okay.
maybe an hour. I mean, I don't even know if it was that long, but probably I'll say an hour at the most. When I had come out of that medical induced state. And thankfully they were able to check all the machines they have hooked up to you. They were able to see that, okay, he's doing well. He can breathe on his own now and all that. But that's a very awkward feeling for those that have experienced it. It's very awkward. I could see where it's important that you're sedated when that's happening because it's doesn't feel natural to uh, have a tube uh, down your throat doing the breathing for you. So,
Yeah, I had a surgery about 11 or 12 years ago, and at the end of it, I woke up too soon, too quickly,
oh boy.
and was still intubated. And I remember every detail of it still to this day because it was so shocking.
hmm
Uh, I remember feeling it, and I remember reaching up and touching it, and then I heard somebody go, "Hey, get that out, she's awake." And then they took it out.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So can't
Wow.
imagine being stuck like that for an hour or longer because it was
Yeah,
just
and
a moment and that was enough.
ooh, yeah, that's incredible. This whole thing has really caused me to want clarity on things. So I want clarity on my life. I want to not take it for granted the the opportunity to wake up another day um so the first pillar in my book is purpose, that to discover our purpose. Mark Twain said that the two greatest days in your life are the day you were born and the day you discover why. Ooh, I love that quote. And we all were born for a purpose. It's
Hmm.
not just to take up space. It's not just to, binge out on Netflix and whatever. It's like there's a reason that we are here, and we have to discover that. That's a challenge and a joy at the same time of, wow, I need to discover, what makes me unique and what causes me to love what I get to do and become the person I need to become. And I love also what you were saying earlier about, we live in a production based society, and that really makes us human doings instead of human beings.
Hmm.
We really are to discover our purpose so that we can be all that we are called to be, and make the kind of impact, maybe not to change the whole world, but to change our world, to change to leave our space that we exist in better than it was before we came on the scene. And that's something that I'm really intentional about, because purpose turns passion, I believe, into impact. And I love helping people discover their purpose. So as a purpose coach, one of the things I do is I help people discover their unique purpose. And we do that through a series of questions, but we also do that through an assessment that's online called the Purpose Factor Assessment. And it's incredible when people either get confirmation that they thought they knew why they were here, but they get the clarity and the confirmation to that. It just is fuel. And if people are not sure, and now they get some understanding and clarity on what their purpose is, it sets up so much direction for your life. Because I believe that all of us are, whether we realize it or not, have three questions. We're wondering, do I matter? Is what I'm doing, does it matter? And we're always wondering what's next, what's next, what's next. And I believe that your now leads to your next. So let's get clear on our purpose, and we will live a much more fulfilled life. And so I'm really passionate about helping people with their purpose, because I've seen the difference it's made in my life and the difference that it's made in so many people that I've had the privilege to help coach to get that clarity.
Yeah, purpose is super important. And I find so being a mom,
Mm-hmm.
my oldest he'll be 11 soon, but he's had existential crises since he was 2.
Mm-hmm.
How obnoxious is that? Like, kid,
Mm-hmm.
kid,
Yeah.
you don't even know. What are you doing? And he started having suicidal tendencies when he was about 7. And
Mm-hmm.
my story is not uncommon these days with other, moms dealing with similar things with their kids. The world has changed so much in such a small amount of time, and we're parenting kids that are from a different world. And having to learn how to manage that can be really difficult because, you know, used to. All right, so arguably, most people don't know what their purpose is because they've never
Mm-hmm.
really explored or done the work to figure it out. And up until recently, people were happy with that. They were happy with just kind of like living life and getting by, and it didn't really matter. They were just hanging out,
Mm-hmm.
and that was okay. But since the connection of the internet has made the world so much bigger and so
Mm-hmm.
much more complex, a lot of people have woken up to finding their greater purpose. And it's historically, we've pretty well agreed that oftentimes our purpose involves other people, right? Generosity, doing good in the world, making an impact, building the community, being positive members of the community. And yes, all of these things really do give you a sense of wholeness and purposefulness. But kids these days are really overwhelmed by that, and they're they know more about the world than we ever did at their age.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm finding that a common factor is they're accepting death sooner and easier and quicker, but in the direction of what's the point of living? The finish line is going to be the finish line no matter what. What's the difference between if I opt out now at 17 or if I wait until I'm 70? Honestly, that sounds horrific. Living for 70 years and going through all of the pain of life just to find the same outcome. So kids are having a hard time finding their purpose in that sense because they don't see any purpose in that. And, again, going back to oftentimes our purpose connects to other people. I We can't do things and choose things for other people though within our if that the wording here is I'm struggling with, but you have to do things for you. You have to do things that make you happy for you so that you can show up in the world. And I think that's the disconnect. So I've started my, I don't know, sage advice to the fellow parents that come to me and they're like, or, not come to me, but express this similar concern with their kids is that they're like, I can't figure out how to motivate them because everything's like, okay, well, somebody else will do that for those people if I don't. Like, it doesn't matter. But I've landed on the purpose of life being fun. You're
Mm.
here to have fun. Just have fun. Just be happy, have fun. Thoughts?
So that's a I love hearing people's thoughts on purpose. So that's an interesting um, kind of synopsis of the purpose of life is to have fun. Because I can look at people, you know, especially I mean in our own country as well, but around the world, that their conditions are far below the kind of conditions that we live in America. Even in difficult situations in America, we are substantially beyond. I mean, how so many people's conditions are that they're living in around the world.
We are the one percenters
Yeah,
of the world.
absolutely. Yeah. So for me, I would say that purpose, it does involve other people from the standpoint of purpose is giving the best of what you have to others.
Mm-hmm.
Giving is the best of what you have to help others.
Mm-hmm.
So the ability that I have, and I like what you said there from the standpoint of, we can't give away what we don't have. So
Mm-hmm.
we do need to invest in ourselves. We do need to be mindful of our mental health, and we do need to be mindful of ways that we're growing ourselves personally. So I'm grateful that when I was a teenager, 15, 16 years old, and a little bit trying to navigate life as a teenager and, what is my identity and just had really low confidence or self esteem. And I'm so grateful that I had back then an uncle, my Uncle Tom, that was a entrepreneur and a small business owner, yet quite successful. He and my aunt worked together, but my Uncle Tom took me under his wing. He saw potential in me. He began to teach me about thinking beyond myself, like what kind of goals do I want to have in life. He began to introduce me. This goes back to the 1980s, so it's cassette tapes back then. Kind of dates me of Zig Ziglar, books by Og Mandino. These different names. These are personal development kind of gurus here that help me learn how to have a different mindset of just negativity or so self focused, and I was unsatisfied with my life. And I also had some suicidal ideation when I was a teenager because I didn't have any understanding why I was here, basically. And my uncle really helped me to learn how to grow myself, how to get focused on self development. And what I began to see was that my desire to live and to love life, and my desire to grow myself, and the benefits that I began to, get courage in my life and get more of a positive outlook on life. Things began to shift for me, and I'm so grateful for that. And so, what I often ask people are these two questions, like, what are you doing to grow yourself, and what are you doing to grow other people? Because my uncle was intentional not just to grow himself, but he was intentional to help me grow. And I think that helps us get out of ourself to fill ourself up so that we have something to give away, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And that we can be an encouragement and a support to other people. I love quotes. You're probably picking that up. I share a lot of quotes, but the founder of Chick-fil-A, Truett Cathy, uh, had this question that he asked and he answered it. And he said, "Who needs encouragement?" And then Truett Cathy said, "Everybody who's breathing."
Hmm.
So we all need encouragement. We all need somebody to see potential in us. We all need somebody that we can turn on their podcast and they're going to encourage us in our walk, just like you do. We all need somebody that's going to come alongside us and say, "I believe in you." And even if you don't believe in yourself, why don't you borrow my belief in you until your belief matches mine? Because I see that your best days are ahead. Matter of fact, it doesn't matter what day of the year it is. We can always make the rest of the year the best of the year. And I think that when we have a positive life stance and a positive outlook on life, there's always going to be negative things around us. But we can live a more fulfilling life if we have that mindset. One other thing I'll add here before I pause is we're all looking for purpose, or maybe we're not, but those that are looking for purpose are looking for purpose. And I believe purpose is the best of what you have to help others. But ultimately, what we're looking for is what we get from purpose. When I give the best of what I have to help you, Savannah, or somebody, what I receive in return is something that is actually a chemical of dopamine that goes off in our brain, and it is called fulfillment.
Mm.
When we give the best of what we have to help others, we receive fulfillment. So that's where other people that would say, I helped out a soup kitchen, or I volunteered here, or I did something for somebody else, or I was generous with my time to tutor a student, or help someone. We actually receive a dopamine hit of like satisfaction, and it's actually fulfillment that we're receiving as we live out purpose. And then when you mentioned fun, one of my 7 pillars is all around fun. It's the pillar of explore. So that's all about chase wonder, adventure often, explore big. I believe every day we should laugh. Every day we should have something that is fun and enjoyable. And life shouldn't just be the grind of work and chores. We should enjoy our life, and we should explore big, and we should have fun. So I do believe that that's an important part of truly living. For me, a life of priority living is that fun needs to be a part of it. I love to play hard, but I love to work hard, but I also play hard too.
Work hard, play hard is a motto at my house also.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love
Definitely.
it.
Yeah. It's arguably it's our own because the US is, I think what are the statistics? It's like 15,000, 30,000 a year is all it takes for you to be a one percenter of the earth, of the
Yeah.
world, of people.
Mm-hmm.
And so the comfort that we've built for ourselves is to our detriment, you know? Uh, some of the poorest places in the world, some of the most war-ridden places in the world, produce some of the happiest individuals because true happiness comes from the people around you and those connections and those
Yeah.
relationships, the village, and the thing that we have really severed ourselves from over here, I think. Our villages are so much smaller than they ever were, if they exist at all. There's so many people that don't have that connection with other people and individuals. So, you know, it's easy to be like, people are where you're going to find your purpose. Because yes, it is, but when you're looking around and you can find no people,
Mm-hmm.
it makes it really hard. So what do you do for those people, you know? They have to be able to overcome their own what's the word? Anger
Mm-hmm.
from their loneliness. And like, well, what
Yes.
am I doing for, why am I going to do something for people if people have never done anything for me? I always tell people, if you're having a hard time figuring out what to do or where to focus on the children in your life, in your area, because, each and every one of us are still just a child on the inside. We're the
Mm-hmm.
same child that we were when we were a child. It's just now we're an adult body, so people expect more out of us. And when you're thinking back to when you were a kid, who made the most difference in your life? And for you, it was your uncle, you know. Uh, I had one of the greatest gifts I was giving is that I was raised by 1,000 different people. There were people always popping in and out of my life, and most of them didn't stick around for very long, but they made a huge impact when they were there. If I only spent 3 hours with this person my entire life, the fact that they listened to me and saw me and focused on me and just, hung out with me for
Mm-hmm.
just a little bit of time, it made all the difference in the world. And had they not, who knows where I would have ended up. We have no
Yes,
idea the impact that we have on the people in our lives, but children will always point you back to what's actually important.
that's really good. Yeah, absolutely. When we invest in young people and can can see ourselves as able to make a difference in molding and shaping their lives, that's that definitely gives us meaning to our life, and a great place to look to add value and come alongside people if we're not, especially if we're not sure what to do or where to start. I've had the privilege to travel to many countries around the world, and especially Africa countries, um, and you're exactly right. People that have very little income, we would say they would have about $1 to $2 a day. So think about that. And yet they are the happiest people. And yet you look at children in those regions, and children are just everywhere because they are raised by the village. They're not just raised by a parent. Many of them are, one parent because of different disease or whatever have taken out one or more of their parents, and but they're raised by the people around them, and people invest in them, and I think that's an incredible society to live in when people are in that kind of connection. And you're talking about the importance of connection to other people, which I wholeheartedly agree with. That's another pillar in my book. You're just dropping all these nuggets here, Savannah. I love it. And another pillar in my book is connect. So Esther Perel said, the quality of our life will be determined by the quality of our relationships. And so the connecting with people is so vital. And in that chapter, actually, I have a relationship pyramid where it goes from being complete strangers to how you move up the pyramid, whether it's personal or professional, in getting greater connectivity to the people around you, because there's a increased quality of your life with having quality relationships.
Yeah. And again, comfort being to our detriment. Being having relationships is hard. And so,
Mm-hmm.
in those poorer places, they don't have as much, so they need one another to
Mm-hmm.
survive, period,
Yeah.
point blank. But with
Yeah.
our comforts that we've created, our little cocoon over here of comfort, we don't necessarily need, quote unquote, but we do, for mental and emotional health and overall
Yes.
well-being, even physical health. We
Mm-hmm.
need those communities and those villages and those connections. But since it's not, that's more of an abstract thought rather than a tangible food, shelter, clothing,
Yeah.
that we think we don't, oh, I don't need you. And we just cut people off real quick, especially now that, again, with the internet and knowledge is power, we are all aware of what red flags are now. So
Mm-hmm.
we're identifying them all over the place. Whereas used to, we may have like let things slide a little bit more, or, oh, well, like, he's kind of a jerk, but it wasn't a jerk to me. So, he's not too bad
Mm.
for me. Uh,
Yeah.
but the truth is that we all have red flags.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's perfect.
Right. No one's perfect. I know I'm not. I don't know about you, but I know I'm not. That's for sure.
Yeah. So it's real easy for us to just isolate ourselves and then become, as a result, a little narcissistic. Because again, oh, I don't need you. If you're going to be like that, we don't have to sit and talk about our problems with each other. So
Mm-hmm.
none of us know how to talk about our problems with one another. It's easier to ghost. It's easier to dip
Mm-hmm.
out and avoid confrontation and
Right.
those feelings. And then we go home and we're like, I don't know why they treat me like this. I don't know why they don't love me. And it's like, well, it's really narcissistic, to think that everybody has to treat us the way we imagine that they should in our heads.
Mm-hmm.
And flipping that around, the solution is to be the one that gives.
Yeah. So, you know, we can either take the normal road or we can take a high road. And taking a high road is coming up, not to get an ego or cocky or anything, but we just come up a little bit higher to say, I'm gonna serve other people. I'm gonna I'm gonna I'm gonna value people. I'm gonna see how I can be an encouragement to other people. I think all of those are the kind of things that, if we do it with the right motive and the right heart attitude, we can live a more fulfilling life, but we can also be lifters of others. I love this thing that I often say is that we are all elevator people. I don't know if you've ever heard this before. We're all elevator people. Savannah, we're either taking people up or we're bringing people down. And
Mm,
I want to be an elevator person that's lifting others up and be an encouragement to other people, and accept people for where they're at, and also encourage them to say, wherever you're at, you can you can have a better day tomorrow, and you can create a better life for yourself and for your family. You don't have to be stuck where you are, but there's hope. And sometimes it takes a coach or a mentor or a friend to come alongside and begin to help us create a pathway for our life that's more the preferred life that we would like to have, and then some next steps as to, okay, how do you get from here to there?
mhm,
Because that's one of the ways that I lift others up, is through encouragement and through helping them say, what's your dream? I think most people have a dream. They just don't necessarily think they can obtain it, but they have a dream. And if we started asking more people in community and saying, what's your dream? How could I support you in a next step? Maybe not all the steps, but I can support you in a, well, hey, I love your dream. Who do I know that you need to know? It's like, maybe there's somebody I can connect you with that can help you with a step moving forward in your dream, and be a lifter of people that way. There's a lot of different ways that we can help each other if we're willing to be helped. That takes that
mhm,
openness to say, who do you know that I need to know? Or, hey, I could use some help with something, and not have to be so self-sufficient on everything, which so
mhm.
often we tend to be.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's another product of our society, culture, upbringing, isn't it?
Hmm.
Again,
Yeah.
the I don't need you thing. I'm independent.
Yes. So, there's always opportunities to identify um, areas for growth or shortcomings, but not to get stuck wallowing in that, and use those as excuses for not moving forward, but finding ways to be able to move forward from where we are to where we want to be. And that's what I love helping people do. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it all comes back to the relationships and the
Mm-hmm.
connecting with people. And sometimes it can be really hard to find people to connect to.
Mm-hmm.
And in those instances, it takes a lot of strength to dissolve the ego to an extent,
Mm-hmm.
like that's always
Yeah.
the goal, right? But just not putting any expectations on anybody or anything and just pointing
Yeah.
yourself towards some kind of direction, something to focus on. And like uh it- what you focus on can shift and it doesn't have to be grand, like people overthink things and simultaneously underthink things all at the same
Mm-hmm.
time. Uh, I do puzzles. So I, I
Oh,
I call
nice.
them my emotional support puzzles. So
Mm-hmm.
the more I'm working on the more like emotional turmoil and stress I've been dealing with, overwhelm, yada yada, whatever, whatever, the more I work on puzzles so that I can just shut everything out and focus on that for an hour. And it's amazing what it'll do for your overall well-being when you can just let everything else take a backseat for a minute. Just put everything on the back burner. And it's like, yes, I have 1,005 things to do, and I have zero time to do any of them. But you know what? Screw it all. I'm just going to do my puzzle for an hour. And then you come out and you feel refreshed and better. And sometimes it's 3 hours, and sometimes you may need to do that for 3 months. Sometimes you just need to shut everything out
Mhm.
for 3 months and just focus on that or video games. Video games get a bad rep, but they're a tool just like anything else, and they can be really useful for allowing yourself to escape, escapism. I'm not a advocate for escapism, but
Mhm.
sometimes you can get trapped there. You can get stuck there, and
Right.
that's
Absolutely.
yeah, that's the trap you need to avoid for sure. But it's also completely okay to allow yourself to escape for periods of time if that's what you need to recalibrate.
Yeah, I've never really gotten into video games myself, but I know other people that's been helpful for them. So, yeah.
Well, it's like television shows or
Hmm.
books. There's all sorts of ways that people escape reality. I love how it's a trap for sure. Books have the connotation of being productive, right?
Hmm.
So I know tons of people who read nonstop, but don't ever actually do anything in their life.
Hmm.
They're depressed, they're unhealthy, but oh man, they read some books.
Yeah. And I think that also comes down to what types of books are you reading, because there are some books that can definitely be more beneficial than just the, like you said, the escapism of, I'll use the example of, romance novels or something like that. I mean, I don't know, I've never read any of them, but I'm just saying that, there are books that are also helpful to grow you, or to, you're curious about a topic and you want to learn about it, so you read. That's different than just, maybe an escapism of books. So yeah, there's all kinds of things that can be used for good, or used for not good, and we have to be mindful of, is it become a vice for us, or is it something that's helpful for us? Absolutely.
Sure. I have a really hard time reading fiction at all
Hmm.
because again, it's that productivity stuff. If I have time to sit
Hmm.
and read a book, then it needs to be nonfiction. That way I'm learning something, right?
Hmm.
But, let's use Harry Potter, for example. There's not really anything that you can really get from that does anything for your life other than it's fun and it's a good time.
Yeah, some entertainment.
Yeah. So,
Hmm.
you have to find that happy balance, that medium of it's okay to not be productive
Yeah,
100% of the time.
sure. Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if you heard of this book. There's a for a shameless plug here. Here's my book, Priority Living. It's a way that you can learn these 7 pillars to make your life count, and I find it to be a productive use of someone's time, myself. So anyway, uh, that's what I would plug. A good book is Priority Living. So
All
you are
right.
a delight, Savannah. Thank you for the opportunity to have this conversation with you. I really appreciate it.
Well, thanks for coming in and talking with me.
Absolutely. Make it a ridiculously amazing day.
You do the same.